Hello, and welcome back to the Be a Better You podcast. I am your host, Allison K. Dagny, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a survivor of 20 years of emotional abuse, and I am a best-selling author as well as a subconscious mind expert and emotional abuse recovery coach. Now, today we are going to talk about guilt and regret. So the first thing I want to ask you is, have you ever thought, if I stop feeling guilty, maybe that means I didn't care? Or have you ever really regretted something that you did or regretted the past and then believed that would help you not do it ever again? Well, what if I told you that that's not true? And worse, it might be what's actually keeping you stuck from moving forward in your healing journey. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this today is because this is something that shows up constantly in the results of my free online quiz on my website. People are haunted by regret. They are thinking that it's necessary for their healing and growth or to make changes. And it's not. Today, I'm going to prove it to you. So if you're someone who really struggles with I should have done this differently, or, I should have left sooner, or I shouldn't have done that, or whatever that might be for you, holding on to the past, clinging to your regrets and feeling bad about the things that happened that maybe you were a part of, isn't actually going to help you heal. Okay? So we're going to break this down so that you can finally let go of this and start moving forward with peace and empowerment and confidence and feeling really good. Now, I want to explain this myth first, okay? So this thought that if I feel guilty about something, if I feel bad about it, then that means I care, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say that you left an abusive relationship and you divorced someone and you broke up the family, and the kids are really upset about this divorce. Well, if you hold on to that guilt, then for some people that proves in their mind that they care about their children and the suffering that their children are going through. So I'm just going to feel really bad about doing it, even though it was the right thing to do. I'm just going to, feel really guilty about it because that proves that I care. This is how people's minds work. Okay. So you might be like, oh yeah, I kind of do that. Right? The other one, regret, could be something like if you did something, you made a mistake, you are holding on to this thought of like regretting the past because you think it's going to keep you from making the same mistake again in the future. Now, just this morning, I went onto Threads. Now, this is going to be later than when you guys hear this episode air, but I went onto Threads and I asked, agree or disagree? Holding on to guilt or regret keeps you from making the same mistakes again. And overwhelmingly, people said yes. But what does that say? To me, it's showing that a lot of people are carrying around guilt and regret. But what you're doing is you're living in the past. You're holding on to the past. You can't be present and you can't move forward. And I'm going to show you how it's possible to let go of guilt and regret and feel okay. The truth is, guilt specifically can feel productive to people, right? It can feel like it's actually doing something for us. But what it's really doing is keeping you in a loop. It's keeping you in a negative thought loop and often beating yourself up, right? Now think about this. If someone did something, let's say a child threw a baseball and it hit your car and dented your car, right? If every single day you told that child they should feel bad for what they did and you're constantly reminding them and telling them how, they should have never thrown that ball, every day you're telling them, reminding them multiple times a day. Is that going to make that child feel good? Absolutely not. Now, is there a place for telling that child that they made a mistake and that that was wrong and that they should have been more careful? Sure. But the learning doesn't happen in holding the guilt. The guilt isn't the thing that keeps you from repeating the same mistake. You might feel bad about it, that you did what you did, right? But that's not actually the thing that keeps them from throwing that baseball again in the same way that they did, carelessly or whatever. What does it is the experience of what that actually meant, right? So now you as the parent have to go get the car repaired. There's a bill involved. Maybe you offset the cost to your child and have them do chores to help pay for it. That's the thing, right? That's the learning, because they don't want to have to do that again. They don't want to have to do all those extra chores to pay for that again, right? But it's not in the beating people up emotionally, telling them how horrible they are, telling them they should have never done that. They already did it. It already happened. You can't change that it already happened. So why are we doing that to ourselves? Okay? Holding on to guilt, really what it does is it just turns into a form of punishment, self-punishment, to prove that we've changed or to prove to someone else that we cared enough to not repeat that behavior, right? But guess who it's affecting most? You, because it's happening inside you. You're the one carrying that big bag of rocks around that are all labeled, shouldn't have done this, should have done that differently, I'm bad because of this, whatever. Like, they're all labeled. There's a huge, like Santa Claus with a giant pack of rocks. How are you going to heal and go up that hill with that giant pack of rocks? It's going to be exhausting. You might not even make it. Maybe just put the bag down. Okay? Guilt is not some sort of sign of growth and healing. Okay? A lot of people think it is. Oh, I've learned my lesson and I'm going to beat myself up over this, right? What growth is, it's new behavior, right? It's changed behavior. It's not hanging on to the past and this like old suffering and like holding on to the things that you wish didn't happen, because reality is it did happen and you can't go back and change it. You don't have a time machine. So why not let yourself off the hook and change your behavior going forward instead? I want to tell you a story. And this story is in my book, When Tears Leave Scars, so maybe you've read it. But we had a family dog, and that family dog was not treated well. He was mistreated. Now, this didn't happen until we moved into our new house. The dog used to live indoors with us. He was an inside dog. And when we moved to the new house, it was in the middle of the summer, and it was a brand new, big, beautiful house. And I said, I want the dog to stay outside because he was constantly licking our carpet at the other house. And I said, I don't want him, messing up the carpet in the new house. So he can just be outside. Well, my ex-husband, my husband at the time, did not disagree. And so we let the dog run around. We had 14 acres. He enjoyed being outside. Well, when winter came, I started to have a very massive change of heart, and I was very, very insistent that we bring the dog back in. Well, by that time, my ex was like, nope, you made your decision, now you live with it. And I had an extremely difficult time with this, and the abuse was getting worse and worse towards me. So I was feeling like I couldn't make a decision to go against my husband at the time, or I was going to have the wrath that would ensue from that. So there was a lot more involved than just this, but the overhanging theme is the mistreatment of the dog, right? And me enabling it as an abuse victim, okay? And this is common and happens to a lot of people. But it is by far one of the greatest regrets of my entire life. Now, what I will say is, I felt the pain of this. I have cried and shed many, many tears over this. This dog has since passed. He's no longer here. That was years and years ago. But I felt the guilt. I did. And I felt the pain of this. But I realized my mind was being consumed with this sadness and this guilt over the mistreatment of my dog, because he was a wonderful, sweet dog. But what I did to help myself release this was I made a choice. I decided I wasn't going to live in the past anymore. I made a conscious decision. I am never going to allow something like this to ever happen again. And I will never enable that kind of mistreatment of an animal ever again. I made that choice. I learned the lesson, right? At the expense of my sweet little dog. However, my dog now is never mistreated. He's actually extremely spoiled, right? I honor that mistake every single day through the love and the care that I give to my new dog and that I would give to every other animal in my care going forward. So do I think about my dog from the past? Absolutely. Does it make me sad sometimes? Sure. But I've had to let go of those rocks that I was carrying around, because holding on to that isn't actually serving me. It's not helping me, just keeping me tied to the past. So I had to make a conscious decision, like, how am I going to do better? How am I going to be a better dog owner? How am I going to, honor my pet that was mistreated and honor the life that he lived, right? And honor him by treating the dogs and the pets that I have now with the true love and care, compassion and kindness that they deserve. That's how, okay? My new dog does not benefit from my guilt from the dog from the past, right? He benefits from the love that I give him now because of the lesson that I learned. I don't have to keep reminding myself of what a bad dog owner that I was, or how weak that I was, that I didn't stand up for him, or how I should have done this or I should have done that, right? I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to live there anymore, because I've decided that I'm going to take better care of the pets that I have now, and that I will never let any person do that to me or to a pet ever again. So the big message here for you is that your pain, your regret, your guilt can be the teacher, right? It can teach you, but it doesn't have to be this repetitive thing. It's not required for you to learn the lesson. I hope that makes sense. All right, now, the one thing I want to talk about is when our beliefs are something that are keeping us trapped, right? These beliefs that are tied and creating these feelings of guilt and regret. So when I go back and I look at these quiz results and I see all of these beliefs that people are selecting as their personal beliefs, right? What I'm seeing is that they are carrying regret and guilt like it's some sort of armor. Why is this, right? Why do I think this is? Well, I think it's because they think that letting go of it means that either they didn't care, or that it's letting them off the hook somehow, or they need to be punished for it, or something along those lines, right? And it's going to be different for every person. But I keep seeing this theme popping up, right? In this quiz, there are many, many, many different things that I touch on. There's like 15 questions, but I touch on different things, and you get to select and pick and choose what most resonates with you. But I see this one come up quite a lot. The regret of the past, the guilt, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, I should have acted differently, right? But what's going on here is that our subconscious mind gets stuck in the past. It gets stuck on this loop, this repetitive loop. And what it doesn't realize is that we've already changed the behavior. We've already decided we're not going to do it again, but it's still in the background running that old movie. Okay? Because a lot of people have made a conscious choice. Like, I am never going to let this happen again. I will never allow this ever again, right? But yet they still haven't let go of that old story. They haven't stopped that movie from playing anymore. So there's a way to do this. There's a way to make the decision and then let go of it. But a lot of people make the decision and still hold on to it. So what I want you to understand is that subconscious healing, when you do subconscious healing, it disrupts this guilt regret cycle. It turns off the movie so that you can just be present and you can just enjoy your life and you're not carrying around the guilt and the regret. And that's why, partly why I created this quiz is to help you find out which beliefs are running your life, which are controlling your state of being. And so you can go out there and you can take it right now, or when you're done listening, to see what comes up for you. And then there's a section at the bottom where you can write down other things that are coming up for you. And what I do is I analyze all of your answers and I give you a very detailed feedback and shifts about what those beliefs are. And it's like a big write-up so you can review it. But it takes me about 48 hours, so make sure you give me some time to respond, because it's not like an automated thing. I go through each and every one of them. All right. So how do we do this? This is the question, right? How do we stop holding on to the guilt and regret and then still make the choice to learn the lesson and move forward differently, take different actions? Well, let's use an example that a lot of people have said to me in my coaching programs. And that is, I should have left sooner. Okay? And this is very nuanced because it's not just that one thing that people believe. There's a lot of things tied to it. Things like, I should have seen the red flags. I shouldn't have let him treat me that way. I should have left the first time something bad happened instead of waiting until the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time. There's so many different things, but for this particular belief, I should have left sooner. This one comes up a lot. So how do you release the guilt and regret from that and then learn the lesson, right? So let's imagine you did leave, you're out of there, but you keep telling yourself you should have left sooner. Well, we have to reframe these thoughts, okay? Because if you keep letting them run away like that runaway train, it's not going to serve you. It's going to keep you tied back there, okay? Believing I shouldn't have left, or I should have left sooner, doesn't do anything for you. It just beats you up, right? So instead, start thinking of it in terms of, maybe I shouldn't have left sooner. And if your body just seized up, or you're like, ugh, like I don't like that feeling, good. It's supposed to feel that way. Because why? Your brain is not used to thinking that. You have to stretch it. That's the work that I do with people. Like, I ask them, like, how does that feel? Ugh. Like, you're like putting your hands up, like, no. I should have left sooner. I should have left sooner. I should have left sooner. That's that chugga chugga choo choo train that's running away with your brain, right? No. I shouldn't have left sooner. Why? Why is it just as possible I shouldn't have left sooner? Well, for me, I had been completely brainwashed. I didn't know what was happening to me. I believed that I had PMDD, that I was emotionally off my rocker, that I was crazy. I had been brainwashed, conditioned to believe that I was the problem. Why would I have left sooner? That doesn't make any sense. Because I truly believed I was the problem. Why would I have left sooner? I shouldn't have, because I couldn't have. I didn't have that awareness. Another reason, because I didn't know anything about narcissism. When I did know, I started planning my escape. You can read that in my book too. I had no idea that this was a thing. I thought narcissism was when people like stared at themselves in the mirror and like admired themselves. I didn't know it was like a disorder where people abuse people. I had no idea. And my ex was extremely covert. Never said a cuss word to me. Never raised his voice at me. It was such a mind bleep. I'm sure you're resonating and you're like, yep, I get that. I've been there. I know that too, right? So I shouldn't have left sooner because I didn't know better. I didn't have any information. When I finally found out, then yes, I left. And guess what? I don't beat myself up for that. I am in a new relationship now, and if I get a whiff of narcissism, red flags, I'm leaving this relationship, right? That's the lesson I learned, okay? Now, some people have a hard time learning those lessons, and some people repeat it with the same folks or different folks in the same patterns. That's a totally different podcast episode. If you're somebody who keeps ending up in these relationships because you didn't learn the lesson of I should have left sooner, there's something else at play there. There's something else deeper. This is like peeling back layers of an onion, right? So if you're one of those people, that's a different conversation. That's a totally different podcast episode. That's probably more related to your self-worth, your inability to hold boundaries because you're afraid of what other people will think, your need to be loved, to be liked, to be affirmed, to be validated, right? That's totally different. What I'm talking about here is not beating yourself up, holding on to guilt and regret for a mistake that you made in the past or something that you did or didn't do, and believing that by holding on to that, somehow it's going to make you change. Or if I hold on to this guilt and regret, then I'll never repeat that mistake again. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to happen that way. You can let it go and still make the decision to never repeat the behavior again. It's happened to me with other things. I did something I wish I hadn't done. It was painful enough for me. And then I forgave myself. I let it go and I moved on. Now, this isn't something that just happens like I say. It's very simple when I say it out loud. You have to reprogram your mind also, right? I shouldn't have mistreated my dog. I shouldn't have listened to my ex. I should have stood up for myself. I shouldn't have, right? When we do those things to ourselves, again, we're just stuck in the past. So I'd have to look at each and every single one of those things and reframe them too. Okay? Now, the thing that actually prevents you from repeating mistakes, okay, again, is not guilt, it's not regret, it's not holding on to the past. That's not what prevents you from repeating mistakes. It's awareness, right? That stops the cycle. Oh, wait, I did this. I don't like the way it felt. I don't want that to happen to me again. That's number one. Integrity. Integrity is huge, right? Especially when you make the choice and you say what you're going to do and you follow through and you do it. Just like I did with my dog. I'm following through. Over time, what happens is I prove to myself that I am a good dog owner. I know how to treat dogs. I don't hold on to that guilt, that shame, that regret from that past mistake because I don't need to. Because I'm building a reliance on myself, love for myself, and love for my pet, even though I made a mistake in the past. Did I do that thing? 100%. Do I take accountability? 100%. Was it the biggest regret of my life? 100%. But it's not serving me to live there and wallow in that. It's not. And it's not serving you either. And the last thing that prevents it is action, right? That's what proves your growth. It's doing the thing, right? Taking the action. Telling yourself what you will do and doing it. The actual action part. Integrity is part of this, right? Because if you say you're going to do it, you do it, right? But you actually have to do it. You actually have to show up in that way. Hold that boundary. Say you're going to never let somebody treat you that way again, and don't. Cut that date off immediately when you get the first hint of a red flag. Right? That's what I'm talking about. You don't need to replay the past to learn from the past. Our brains kind of think we do. Oh, maybe if we just keep repeating this in our brain, then maybe I'll actually learn the lesson. No. You just need to pay attention one time. Okay, I'm aware of this. This is happening. This happened. I take accountability. I don't want this to happen again. Right? That's what healing is. It's changed behavior. And then move forward with the intention that you want. What do you want your life to be? How do you want it to be going forward? Instead of rereading those old chapters over and over and like, aren't you tired of reading those old chapters? Let's read the rest of the book. You get to design the rest of the book. That's the good part, right? So what next, okay? You understand the purpose of this episode. If this is resonating with you and you're realizing that you have been stuck in guilt or have been stuck in shame or regret or something like that, right? From the past. Things that you did, beating yourself up, right? If you feel like that you're stuck there, then schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me and I'll help you understand how we can move you out of that. Because it's not as hard as you think it is. It only feels that way because you've probably been coping for a really long time. Nothing's been working. You've been trying all the things. You're still ruminating. You're still stuck in the past, right? And when that becomes your reality, it's hard to see that there could be anything different. But there is. I would never be able to be on this podcast talking to you like this. I didn't even like the sound of my own voice once upon a time, right? I wouldn't have the confidence to do the things that I do in the coaching space that I do and helping the women that I help if I hadn't done this stuff for myself. That's the beauty of it. So, if you've been punishing yourself, if you've been, wallowing in that pain, you don't need it anymore. What you need is tools to help you change your brain. Because your brain is the reason why you're feeling these things. It is the reason. The subconscious thoughts are what is causing all of this suffering. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to help you with. So if you want to check out that quiz, go to my website at www.radiatethenrise.com and you can get the free quiz there. Or you can schedule a 30-minute consultation with me, or both, either one. But just to remind you, you can release guilt. You can release regret and take the lesson with you instead. I hope this episode has been helpful to you. And I thank you for being such loyal listeners. It really does bring me so much joy to be able to be here with you every single week and give you as much as I can in the way of healing tools and tips. So thanks for being here, and I will talk to you next week.